I'm Jamie Hughes. I'm a farrier based in Suffolk in the UK, and
Sam Masters based in Leicestershire in the UK.
You know, the very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier Podcast.
Every horse, whatever it was doing, had a season. Once their competition season finished, they took the shoes off, they chucked it out in the field with some other horses, and it had a 2, maybe 3 months period where it went and remembered what being a horse was all about.
Even in a cheaper area, your prices should be set by your skill level, by your experience. And some people might not feel that they're worth, as much as others. But if you're only charging $160 to shoe a horse, then the only way you're making money is on your trims.
The WCB was a way to make sure that you kept the trade alive. I think I'm a custodian of the trade, so it's like we have to keep it going.
It was hard, but you adapt and overcome, and probably gets to me where I am now. It's problem solving, horseshoeing's problem solving, and back in the day it was problem solving how to be as strong as the older apprentices. So it's all about adapting and overcoming, which was good.
I know we learn every day, but you do have to put yourself outside the box and just continue to learn, which is why I was just trying to do my fellowship, because I still have apprentices, and if I stay at my AW, I'm stagnant.
Welcome, everyone. A short shopkeeping. Dr. Simon Curtis's next webinar is coming out this week, Wednesday, June the 5th. The Veterinary Hoof Care Webinar with Simon Curtis, Hans Castellans, and Simon Moore. Go to eventbrite.co.uk. Look up the Veterinary Hoof Care Webinar and get your tickets there. Don't forget to use Mullins as your discount code at checkout. Well, I met these two characters a couple years back at my very first Stoneleigh. They played a very key role in all aspects of the competition and focus. They helped set it up, run it, and tear it down, and stayed until the very last road case had been packed up. As you'll hear, Sam has a family background in theater production. So he is the reason we could all see underneath that giant canopy. He set up all the lights and ran all the audio for the announcements. And every morning before we arrived, Jamie Hughes was there ahead of us and had all the fires lit and ready to go for the competition that day. Last year, Danny was busy with his duties as the chief steward, so he put Jamie in charge of helping me to retrieve and schedule guests, as well as just overall keeping me watered and fed. Anyway, over the past couple years, it has been fun to get to know these two characters. Whenever they work together, the banter is unending and always comical. So I thought, let's put them together and do an interview. I will say the cutting room floor was covered when we were done editing this one. We just took out a few parts to protect the identities of those involved in the stories of their debauchery. Fear not, though, we still left a lot in. Please excuse the occasional cuss word here and there if you're sensitive to that. Overall, though, we covered the gamut of horseshoeing, from silly to serious. During one point of the conversation, Sam makes a very important point about the type of clientele that you get through social media versus by word of mouth. For those of you starting out in this business aiming to build up your books, I hope that you will heed Sam's advice. Just like most things, there is no shortcut to good clientele. And good old-fashioned word of mouth is the best way to achieve that. I was listening to a talk the other day by an entrepreneur named Alex Hermosi, and he was talking about marketing. And he said in the beginning stages of your business development, you want to perfect your product, not your promotion of it. You don't want to market a mediocre product to thousands of people. When I heard that, it reminded me of some advice I had read from Chris Gregory about when you're first starting out, and learning and making all kinds of mistakes as we do. You're better to start in an area that you don't eventually want to settle in. And then, once you've learned the ropes, you start your business in the new area with a clean slate. Yes, social media is a great way to get your name out there, and I wouldn't discourage you from that, but I would encourage you to spend more time perfecting your craft than taking pictures of it. Anyway, it is always a pleasure to run into these two gentlemen, and I look forward to next year. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Now, did you guys go to school together?
No.
Really? Where did you forge your bond?
Competitions. So there's a small agricultural show near mine. Our vans were next to each other. My old boss, he's got twin boys. At the time, they were 5 or 6. They liked playing with hammers. I was midway through my shoemaking round, and they'd wandered off with my rasp, my tongs, and my hammer, to which I turned to Sam and his now wife and said, use contraception. If ever there was an advert, here it is.
And then, yeah, from going on from there, I just remember Jamie tapping away at his leisurely pace like normal. And yeah, all of a sudden, a friendship bonded. And then you do a lot of work for another friend, mutual friend of ours. And yeah, we kind of just seem to have made ourselves a little buddy group.
I've explained it to my girlfriend. Sort of, I speak to Sam sometimes more than I speak to her during the week.
Yeah, I get several comments off my wife saying you speak to Britton more than you speak to me. And I say it's not always for good reason, dear, don't worry.
Jealous of the bond. I did see you went to show me a video and then you scrolled through so much conversation before.
I don't know if we should talk about that.
No, we've just got a little WhatsApp group like people have in industries, haven't we? That we discuss many relevant topics.
Chirp other people?
No, just talking like about hoof past and axis and the use of certain pads and packing material, whether there's enough or too much of a certain colour.
Yeah. Something like that. We like rainbow colours, don't we?
Orange is my primary colour, so I like the super soft mustard dim, if you're listening, mustard.
What's your address, Jamie? Just in case I want to post you some.
The podcast won't be sponsored, but Jamie will.
Britton will like that. He likes a freebie.
Yeah. You didn't get started at the same school. Did you start at the same time? You said you're both the same age, right?
No, you must have started a lot later than me.
Yeah, I was late coming into the apprenticeship. I got pushed in other directions when I was a teenager. So I did welding and fabrication before I started shoeing. So, yeah, I started in 2014. Well, I got my apprenticeship in Suffolk and I studied at the Hereford School of Farriery.
Where you met Danny Bennett.
Yeah, that's where the PTSD stems from.
Before I started, I did a year of A-level. Well, started my first year of A-levels in Nuneaton, just up the road, and I was going to go into technical theatre, kind of follow my dad and my granddad's footsteps. And then it kind of dawned on me, sort of 6 months into it, that I really don't want, I can't. Although I love the career choice and I've been running around theatre since I was a young kid, getting sort of an academic qualification like that really wasn't cutting the mustard for me. So it was a suggestion of, why don't you try shoeing? And I went on a taster day at Hereford College for my pre-farrier. Went out and met a local farrier to me who I'm now good friends with. And I was like, yeah, actually, I'm enjoying this. Start 2012, I started my apprenticeship at Warwick.
So did you have anything to do with horses before that?
My dad, Smiths, has had a few ponies, but that I only really got introduced to that when I moved up to Warwickshire in, I think it's 2007. So I was sort of 14 before I actually got introduced to horses.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I was very late starter.
And your dad, now this is, I guess, almost a dynasty. So your grandfather worked in theatre as well?
Yeah. He started in a few other industries, and his kind of latter stages of up to retirement, he was technical manager at theatre. And then he's bopped about and done jobs all over the place on stuff since retirement because no one can stop him. He's a bit mad like that. And now my dad does a lot of work for lighting on films at Pinewood, Leaveston, Netflix, Disney, and stuff like that at the minute.
Cool. Hence why you were the guy wandering around with cables in your hand, wiring us all up yesterday.
Thankfully, nothing's on fire yet.
Oh, why would you even say that?
The things that are supposed to be on fire are on fire.
Yeah, everything's on fire. Meant to be. I haven't decided a disclaimer. Is there one anywhere?
So when you got your start in fabrication, what kind of stuff were you doing there?
I'm trying to think.
Repressed memories.
Because I was a lazy teenager, I sort of did my course and then, I didn't really push myself to find a job. And then when I did find a job, it was for quite an opinionated old Frenchman. So we clashed heads a couple of times. He was just like, fabrication for factories, covers for machines, sprinkler systems, stuff like that. So when that didn't work out for him, I then started doing sort of manual work, helping builders and stuff like that. So I did that for 6 months to a year. And that's when I finally pulled my finger out and looked into how to get on to Farry. So I got onto the access course at Hereford, did my year there, then sent out a load of letters, then got my apprenticeship in Suffolk.
Okay. Gotcha. So you were horsey before?
Not personally, but my mum and my sister were. And then when I was a teenager, I had friends with sisters who had horses and girlfriends who were also equestrian based. So sort of I got dropped into it that way.
The first farrier I ever met told me at 12 years old to never date a horse chick. I didn't take his advice.
Yeah.
No, this is why I've married one that doesn't have horses.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, same. That was in my dating criteria.
Yeah.
They only want one thing and it's sick. Free shoes.
So what was college like? You both had two different experiences, I'm guessing, but...
College was good. There were times where it was very educational and then in the same breath, not very educational.
Really?
Yeah. So because of COVID and injury, it meant that I did an extra 2 years on top of the 4.
I wondered why you said 6 years of college.
Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful at my diploma, which put me back anyway. Then I got kicked into a metal upright and severed both flexor tendons in one of my fingers, and then COVID struck, which then put everything on its arse.
Oh my gosh. Sounds like fun.
With my college experience, rather than just being one block the entire way through, I got to experience 3. And it's interesting to see the different dynamics of different blocks. Like with my first block, we were all very close. So when we went up to college, there'd be 6 to 8 of us that would all stay in the same house, would cook, would revise, would go out together. And then in the other blocks, they're all very sort of separate. They'd have little groups or certain people would click with each other and they wouldn't get on with someone else. So,
like you're in high school again?
Yeah, basically different factions.
How about your experience?
Warwick, because I live very close to the college, my first block I stayed and I drove from home for a few blocks. So I probably missed a little bit of that college bonding because with Hereford, it's all private accommodation, whereas at Warwick, you stay on site, which brings on a very different dynamic, I think, of, everybody's in the same dorm. So you get the groups of people that didn't quite get on, but did get on. I mean, there was 24 of us on block, so it was quite a big block. And I still remember the first, a lot of people stayed the Sunday night, got quite boozy. Then the Monday night, there was only 4 or 5 of us over 18 on that Monday night. And on the Tuesday, I think 4 people got banned from the bar, including all of the under 18s, because everybody was buying beer for the under 18s. And Jesus Christ, we were in a state. But yeah, like our first month at college was memorable and unmemorable all at the same time.
With the college blocks, when we did it before the apprentice system changed, your first block was 4 weeks. So you'd spend all of September sort of doing your paperwork, getting your basics in. You'd do tool making, shoe making, they'd check your English and maths. Whereas now I think they've shortened it. So it might not be the same for the apprentices in the system at the minute.
Okay. And I heard that even before that, it was 8 weeks. I talked to 2 gentlemen. Now, this is a while ago, I'm assuming. They said it was a pretty wild 8 weeks.
I look back on the dynamics of it now. As a first year, I think I was sort of £130 a week we were getting paid, and I managed to afford to be on the beers for nearly 4 weeks straight. Then you get to a 4th year, and you can't afford to get on the beers for 2 weeks. And it's quite a comparison of life stages from being first year to a 4th year, right, and how differently your money is arranged at that point.
You can tell who still lives at home and who has to pay rent and fuel and insurance, because there's 2 extremes. One's got a very nice car, money's no object, and then you got the other end of the scale. They've got an old car, they go out when they can, or say, what I used to do, I used to save up all my money for when I'd go to college. So that'd be 3 to 2 weeks of wild Thursday nights out in Hereford. I used to call that my holiday.
Right.
Paid holiday as well.
Paid holiday.
Hope Mark's not listening.
Oh, he hasn't got the internet in Suffolk. He's barely got running water and electric.
You guys both, you weren't super horsey going into this. For somebody from North America, where when you decide to become a farrier, you just apprentice with somebody or go to a school, and it's a short span. Like the longest school might be 6 months to a year. It's not as big of a commitment as what you would have done. How did that work for you when you got into it? Were there ever times where you're like, holy man, I am way over my head, or is this the right thing to do? Or did you just know right as you got into it, this is really cool, this is what I'm sticking with?
It's when I sort of started getting behind an anvil, swinging a hammer, I was like, you know what, I'm enjoying this. I think because I've always been, like, you look at my dad's and my granddad's school reports, intelligent but disruptive was quite a thing. And I think it's just because we needed something to do to get your hands moving, something to think about while you're doing something practical as well. And yeah, get behind an anvil. And I was like, you know what, actually I fit here. I dealt with ponies, but nothing, big horses, anything like that, especially young stock thoroughbreds was something I was completely green with dealing with. And I still remember sort of going to a thoroughbred stud we used to do, and they'd had sort of 20 brood mares and foals, quite a few colts. And by the time I qualified, they were getting up to nice big strapping Book 1 horses. And that was a baptism of fire, to say the least. But I think sometimes, on the other hand, if you haven't got not the bad habits, but the way of dealing with things that may be not suitable to the career you're pursuing, sometimes I think it's better in some respects to learn how to deal with things in the way you need to for your job.
You sort of go in eyes open, because you're like, right, I need to pick this up, or this is going to be a very hard job. Because farriery can be a very rewarding career, but in the same breath, it can be an absolute pain when the phone's ringing, first job or before you even get to the first job, another job's rung up. Oh, it's lame. Oh, it's lost a shoe. Oh, I'm going competing. Oh, I forgot to book in. Can you fit me in before 5 o'clock this evening? Yes, definitely a very rewarding career, especially where I am. We've got a few riding schools. So when I started, the pony clubs there, when they first started, they were all diddy. Now they're all 18-year-olds. They're starting to drive and they're starting to drink in the pub. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, it was only yesterday you were crying on the yard because someone shouted at you, and now you're swearing and getting kicked out of Weatherspoons. And then you're going to go and muck out your horse before you go out.
You've been in it long enough to see that transition.
The other thing is, again, when I was a first year, some of my old boss's customers, they were just starting to have kids. So now they're 6-year-old. Well, some of them are 8 or 10 now. So you go there every 6 weeks. Every 6 weeks, not only has the horse potentially grown more foot, but the kid's grown as well. It's in a pram, it's walking, it's playing with your tools, it's giving you grief. It's going to high school, it's driving, it's drinking, it's giving you grief. And then rather than the mum ringing you up, it's the kid ringing you up, again, giving you shit.
And they've still not made you a coffee.
Yeah.
It sounds like you really want to have kids. I could just get that feeling.
It's on the cards at the minute. I'm getting to that stage of my life. I'm over the hill.
It's all downhill from here.
It's all downhill.
Now, like I say to people, though, if you're never at the top of the hill, you can't come down the other side. So life can't go downhill if you don't get to the top of the hill.
Ah, there you go. Just keep the bar low.
Exactly. Aim low and avoid disappointment.
Yeah.
I remember my younger sister used to watch a thing on Disney. I think it was The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody when I was a kid. And that was one of their strap lines of, aim low, avoid disappointment. And I'm like, it's a motto. I think as you get older, you kind of realise that actually sometimes you just have to suck up what's in front of you and realise, you know what, you've just got to get on with life.
There's a clip doing the rounds at the minute. It's some sort of talk in America. One of the attendants is like having a go at the speaker, and she just goes, life's tough, get a helmet. And that's really stuck with me because it's right. It is tough.
Is that the woman that's like, I'm too pregnant to deal with this? Yeah, I like that one.
Too pregnant to care. Get a helmet. It's tough out there.
So you met competing.
Yeah.
I know competing is fairly big over here, especially compared to other parts of the world. I talked to the Netherlands, and it's not a big deal there. What made you guys decide? Because I've still met British folks who don't compete, but what made you decide to continue with the forging even after you'd left school?
I always enjoyed shoemaking as an apprentice. I sort of saw it as my hobby. Plus, going to, well, any sort of competition, there's a bit of a social aspect as well. Say I bump into him, bump into Bennett, give him a load of stick because he deserves it. Like friends I haven't seen since I was an apprentice, or people I met when I was an apprentice, and I can just catch up with them. And the other thing with competitions, although we want to beat each other, we're going to help each other out. Can I borrow your centre? Oh, can I borrow your ruler? Oh, can I borrow your angle grinder? No, you can't because you don't know how to use it. Every time you give it back, the nuts welded onto the angle grinder and I've got to buy a new one. Dexter.
Yeah. We'd never met as an apprentice competing, but it was kind of, I think a lot of the time as well, like I'm from like sort of certainly our little friendship group, I'm certainly the foreigner that I probably need a passport to every time I go over there. But I spend more time, like if I'm ever competing and something's going on in the east of England, it's 3 hours in the car, whereas I could probably go and compete an hour away. But because we've got such a good friendship going on now that actually, you know, when go to competitions and things are going wrong, we'll go and help each other. And I think that's where a lot of the friendship has started, because we'll turn up at competitions and if something goes wrong, we'll just deal with it rather than being the one that sat there going, yeah, it's not my problem, mate.
Sort of some of the people I've met competing in my area, they've come into the area because in Suffolk, you have to travel to get anywhere. So it's the same when they come in, we're sort of on the edge of the country. And like some of the people I've met, it's because the judge or the stewards come over, it's like, they ain't got a striker. You going to fire for them after you've done this round? Yes, Robert. Yes, I will, because it's you. Suffolk's strongest vertically challenged person is a lovely man. I love Robert dearly.
But yeah, like I said, was it Woodbridge last year or this year that me and you ended up doing 5 rounds on the bounce?
Yeah, it was, because then we had pizza.
Yeah.
That's what got me through the morning, because Domino's was coming.
Oh.
Yeah, and so it was it's about 2.5 hour drive down from me. So I'd left at, I think, 4:30, 5 o'clock to get there on time. Got there, I was the first one there, started lighting the fires. Then, because Britain's such a lovely man and made the timetable so politely for us.
First round.
Second round, third round, fourth round. Oh, do you want to do 5th round? Do we have to?
Competitions run smoother when Britain's not there, especially if he's just had a child, because he's suffering from baby brain, and also he likes to take the helm when he doesn't need to. When we've got everything under control and run into time, he'll wander in and say, oh, can you go over to the stables and do that odd shoe for me? It's like, what odd shoe? Oh yeah, it's missing some of the foot up the inside. You got any filler on the van? It's like, no.
Yeah, because I was routing around my van for the filler and realised I didn't actually have any in the van anyway.
But we muddle through.
Yeah, we get there in the end. I mean, yeah, we run Norfolk Show successfully this year, didn't we? And
that finished ahead of time. Which was unheard of at the Norfolk. Usually we're about an hour behind, but we finished half hour early, and then the trophies turned up early, so we actually got time to walk around the showground.
And I didn't have a hangover this year either, which is unheard of.
So, if anyone wants to come to Norfolk's premier shoemaking and shoeing competition, it'll be Norfolk Show next year. We'll see you there.
Make sure you're on time, because they're going to run it.
Anyone wants to judge you, volunteer too, please. It's a lovely little gig.
Stephen would like Andrew Casserly to judge one of his competitions. So, Andrew, if you're listening, please contact Stephen Britton on
Facebook.
Now, you guys do quite a bit of work. I saw you last year and this year. You put a lot of time into helping set Stoneleigh up. Where did that come from? Have you been doing this for years? I don't know how long you've been at it.
I remember sort of coming over here when we were over at the forge in the Marquees, and I had a little conversation with Robert and just saying, I'm quite keen to come and help. And I think it probably stems from helping at competitions and just enjoying getting involved, but also the sort of the friendships you build and the people you meet. I mean, if we weren't here, we wouldn't be here speaking to you. And silly things like this that actually, it's just nice to meet people and be involved and just be a familiar face. Because I think certainly in life sometimes, especially when you get into sticky situations, the more people you know, the more people you can pick up the phone to. Sometimes you can create more for other people as well.
Yeah.
And actually it'd be nice in 20 years' time to sit there and think, yeah, we were there, we did that, we did this, and gives you that little sense of pride, I think, especially in a world at the minute that's so upside down.
Yeah.
You come here and it's a little bit peaceful. Although you've got isolated stress.
Yeah. Well, we saw that this morning when...
In the form of Danny Bennett.
Yeah, he was probably still in bed at 7 o'clock dreaming of Tom Dove carp fishing.
He was here at 6.
I can assure you, we left just before 6.
The fires were all lit at that stage.
So you were very upset about McDonald's not being open, weren't you?
Oh, I had to go find a 24 hours one.
You did find one. They
Yeah.
exist here.
Yeah, it's just in the middle of Warwick.
Well, Danny was all nervous because the Americans had left before we had.
There'd been Starbucks.
Yeah, well, he didn't realize that, so we bypassed coffee to make it to the forge because he was afraid they'd be standing there waiting for the fires to be lit, so...
At least they didn't go to Tim Hortons.
He's stressed and uncaffeinated.
And he arrived and the coke fires were lit.
Mm-hmm.
He has his uses, bless him. He just sticks his head next to the forge and all of a sudden...
I don't even know.
The redhead jokes have been plentiful.
They never get old.
It's the orange hoodie. No one's really bought that up at the minute.
No, I didn't bring mine. I forgot about it.
We got matching orange hoodies. That's a bit of a private joke, isn't it?
Yeah, where did we turn? I can't remember. I turned up. I went to with me and Britain did the Cavalry Pairs early in the year, and I turned up in the orange jumper.
Our local branch of the BFBA, they had a modern materials day, and I turned up in my bright orange hoodie. And it was a bit of a focal point, wasn't it? Jokes about going tarmacking or going on the building sites. Like, yeah, be safe, be seen.
As somebody who's not from your country, for years I've heard that because the apprenticeship system had let so many people through, what you're able to charge isn't as much. There were a whole bunch of farriers, and it just kind of suppressed the market. Is that what you found when you came out of school? Because I've heard other people say that now there's a shortage of farriers.
With that, there was stages when there were quite big groups qualifying, but then I think England's changed. Less people want to do manual work. They want to be TikTok stars, YouTube stars. They want to sell insurance. They want to work in banking because it's easy and it's good money. But when it comes to pricing, there'll always be farriers out there that qualify and think, God, I need some work. If I go in cheaper than everyone else, I can build up my round and then jump my prices up. But that's not quite how it works, because when they jump their prices up, the people who want cheap work will go and find cheap workers.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas sort of if you come in, say at an average price, in my area, it can range from £68, which is a very precise number, up to above £100 for a set. And then if you add extras on, the price sort of fluctuates. So if you come in at an average price, say at the minute it's about £85, £90 for a set, £55 to £60 for a pair of fronts, and then between £35 and £40 for a trim, there's room to manoeuvre. Sort of, again, with the ever-changing world, since I qualified, there's been periods where price of diesel stock has skyrocketed and so slowly come back down. So it's factoring that into your pricing to be able to absorb the, oh my God, diesel's £2 a litre. I'm not sure what that is in a gallon, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm Canadian.
Tenner a gallon.
Tenner a gallon. Yeah, it's quite expensive. And it's the same with shoes and nails and rasps. Pricing can be a bit tricky. There'll always be someone that will try and do it cheaper. But know your worth. There's no point being dragged around for 15 quid to do a trim. It's going to shorten your career. Charge adequate money. They don't care if the horse mauling you about then throws you to a floor and kicks you and you're off work for 10 weeks. That £20 trim isn't going to go very far. As someone that's had an injury and been off work for 10 weeks, you sort of realise that 80 quid that set was at the time isn't going to sustain me for 10 weeks. So again, that's sort of factoring that into your business, having a fallback for when it is a rainy day or you're injured or you're off for a period of time.
I qualified in 2017 off the back of failing my first diploma. I'd probably spent, until COVID at that point, working for other guys 3 days a week. I used to advertise and push myself a bit, but actually I did find in the long run that all the work I have got now has come of word of mouth and recommendations. And anyone I got off advertising on Facebook and stuff, they came and they went.
Yep.
And actually, I think when you get that recommendation through word of mouth and your friends recommended you because you've done this, then actually pricing doesn't become so much of an issue, because when you come off a recommendation, you're already a step above.
Yeah.
We're all human. Unfortunately, things go wrong and nothing mugs you off like a new horse. We all get a little bit overconfident at times and maybe going a little bit too stiff.
Want to be
actually,
the hero.
we've all been there, wanted to be the hero.
Why's that got a small shoe on? I'll go up a size. Oh, that's why.
And it's got both fronts off the following morning. And actually, sometimes when you get in that way and you come off a recommendation, you're already a little bit safer. And I remember actually it was getting to the end of college, Brigadier came in and had a chat with us and was just saying about business of actually, if you go in cheap, you will always be cheap and you can't get expensive because all you are doing is getting cheap work.
Yep.
You go in at the middle of the rung, you'll bubble about, but actually sometimes if you go in more expensive, yes, it will take you longer, but you get better work. And actually, I think sometimes when you collect better work over a slower period of time, you appreciate the job more and you shoot for better people. And actually, you don't end up with the stressful clients. You don't end up with the people that want evenings and weekends.
The ones with naughty horses that don't realise quite how bad they are.
Mhm.
Oh, he picks his feet up for me. Yes, because you pick it up from the other side and it's about 2 inches off the ground and you don't hold on to him. How do you want me to put a set on this?
Now I'm at the point where I'm pretty happy with where I am. I don't take on a lot of work, but I would say to anyone, have a set list of questions. Ask people if the horse is well behaved. Ask me if you've got concrete and cover. And don't be afraid to turn around and say, no, I'm not doing this and I'm not shooting horses in fields, because why make the job more difficult? Every time I've cut myself badly, it's been on a wet, muddy horse.
Mhm.
And now people wonder why I don't do it, because I'm fed up of having bits of my fingers missing all the time. Especially now, we're in a very changing time where it seems like a lot of farriers in the UK are giving up and they don't want to do the job, or they're cutting down massively. And don't get me wrong, it's not good that people are leaving the industry, but I think it's good now that people are making a stand and not doing the bad horses, demanding better environment. It can only be good for the industry.
This year especially, I've noticed there's been a significant increase of farriers voicing their opinions on the equine owning community in the UK. Who hasn't been paid? Who keeps getting crap calls? Why do people keep calling me after 9 at night or before 6 in the morning? Do they not realise the other thing is them thinking we're doing this for their hobby to be affordable. I don't do this for that. I do this as my career choice. This is work for me. I haven't got a second job. I haven't got a sugar daddy to look after me.
You don't?
Not yet.
Don't tell everyone about that, Jamie.
It kind of goes back to what you just said about people doing TikTok and working insurance jobs. People want that easy, fast money. And every aspect of farriery, I find, whether it's learning the foraging, the shoeing, how to handle the horses, how to build your clientele, it's always a slow grind. You do get there, but there isn't a shortcut. The only way you can do it is time.
With the apprenticeship, that's one of the good things. It's something you learn on the job, how to read people, how to deal with people, how to deal with how different people see their horses. Again, what I've personally noticed is horsemanship has changed. Old school horsemen that know how to read their horse and know how to handle their horse have gone, because potentially horses are more readily available to everybody. Oh, I'm 50. I'm going to have my first horse. We're going to learn together. I've bought this green 4-year-old from Ireland. What do you mean I have to have it shot every 6 weeks?
Thankfully, since COVID, horse prices have gone up. Personally, I don't think horses they're a luxury. They shouldn't be affordable. And, there's plenty of people out there that do enjoy their horses and look after them very well on a limited budget. But I think sometimes, especially probably now with the demise of riding schools, that we aren't getting people that are going to a riding school at, as a young child and learning the experience and learning how to deal with different animals, and actually learning that owning horses sometimes, especially through the winter, is a thankless task.
Mm-hmm.
Mucking out, picking fields in the piddling rain, courses covered, ruined rugs, vet bills, all these sort of things that people, they say, oh yeah, I've bought this racehorse off the track for £1 because it was useless. And actually it's the most expensive £1 you'll ever spend.
Exactly, yeah.
And people don't realise this a lot of the time. They go in very greenly. Don't get me wrong, there are people out there that go into this and they learn very well and they surround themselves by the right people. But unfortunately, sometimes they surround themselves by the wrong people.
Who are in plentiful supply.
Yes, and bad knowledge turns into more bad knowledge. And unfortunately, I think Facebook seems to be a massive port for knowledge in inverted commas that unfortunately is very difficult to battle.
Yeah. This is the Stratum Tectorium. Short answer questions brought to you by Out West Design and Fabrication. Your choice for farrier rigs. Favorite book?
I quite like the spy novels by Clive Cussler, The Oregon Files. It's a mercenary group that travel around on a spy ship in different conflicts in different areas of the world. That's quite good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I haven't done a terrible amount of reading, certainly not. Not that I struggle reading, but I'll read a page and I have to read it twice in order to sink in. But then I listen to a lot of audiobooks. But the last book I probably read was Andy McNabb's Bravo 20, and I think I've read that twice. And it's just one of those books that I enjoy. And it's factual/non-factual, depending who you probably speak to that was there or wasn't there or pretended to be there.
Danny Bennett.
Yeah, Danny was probably there. Ask him in a minute. But yeah, it's just one of those books that I just always enjoyed reading.
Right. That series, I'm going to have to look that up because for some reason just got into that type of audiobook.
He does a few different series. The Numa Files, which again is sort of spy-based. The majority of his books are oceanographic, so they're based on the water, either through research, spy, mercenary force. But then he also does a series based in the early 1900s on a private detective. They're also quite good.
Okay, good. I got more to listen to. Favorite brand of nails?
Mustad. ESLs.
Or concaves. I've gone on to concaves recently, especially since their nice free nail offer.
If they could not send them in a plastic bag, though, that would be appreciated.
In a plastic bag?
Yeah. Some delivery drivers are a bit rough with the boxes, so when it's delivered to outside my door and then there's a sea of nails, I'm not very happy.
What shoe sizes do you generally have to stock the most of?
2 Liberos.
Yeah, I'd say 1 or 2 Liberos is my sort of mid-size. I've got a few bigger, a few smaller, but if someone said to me, right, you need to make an order, but you can only order 2 sizes, 1 of the 2.
Yeah. Do you guys do any hand-making shoes on the road?
I haven't for a while. Sam's gone through a stage of doing handmaids.
Yeah, I've got a hunt yard not far away from here, and they've got a good probably 25, 30 horses. And one of the grooms there has always had Gav Golby do a horse, and she's just bought one, and I bumped into him there the other day. I'm shoeing away, and he's just pulled out some concave and sort of chatting away to him. I've known Gav quite a while now, and I've sort of said to him, how often do you make shoes? I'm like, a pair a day, normally. And I'm like, why don't I? So actually, I've gone home and I've actually realised I've got about 10 bars of 7838 racked up in the side, loads of pre-cut from COVID that I bought that I never got around to using. And since then, I'm actually trying to at least just make a pair a day.
Yeah, it's a good goal.
When your steel's cut, it's marked up, dock to the edges so you can put heels on a bit quicker. It only really takes 15 minutes to knock out 3 heat concave.
Right.
Which, in the grand scheme of things on your day, if you're not trying to plug out 10 sets a day because you're a bit silly, then you can make a pair. And actually, I think you get a little bit of a sense of achievement. And especially, like I know a lot of people at the minute aren't enjoying the job too much. Sometimes that's just enough of an inspiration to get you a bit more motivated and just, that sense of achievement back to it rather than just clogging sometimes, which it can feel like.
It becomes a grind and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite make of rasp?
The hoof plane for field trims. Course side doesn't really clog up if it's muddy. It also leaves quite a nice finish without even using the fine side.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very good to sharpen.
Are they expensive as hell here?
They're about £60 a rasp.
Yeah.
But then the way I see it, if it's going to last me 3 months just doing field trims, I don't mind buying 4 a year.
Right.
Yeah, I've used green hellers for a long time, but unfortunately, as a lot of people seem to be voicing their opinion, they're having troubles, I'd say. I wouldn't say I've got a favourite rasp at the minute.
Okay.
I use a rasp. If I went into a shop and there was an option, it would probably be a blue heller at the minute. But if there was something better on the market, unfortunately, I'd be.
So if there are any rasp manufacturers listening, I don't mind paying more for quality. They just have to last me 5 days. I don't want to be changing my clencher after 2 days. It's not viable.
Yeah.
Do you have a dream farrier rig?
Either out of a new Defender or a pickup with a custom back on, or you sort of get these Japanese trucks. They're flat at the front with a custom back.
Yep.
That's sort of what I aspire to at the minute, just so I can have everything on board.
To be fair, I've got my first big van I bought a year ago, and it's simple. I think sometimes the more complex your rig, the more stuff you carry. The more stuff you carry, you kind of then get an element. It takes away the basic fundamentals of shoeing sometimes, I think. And actually, if all you've got is shoes, nails, then you have to deal with it. And actually, a lot of the time, I think.
Forges strapped to a pallet.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not that basic. Don't worry.
Gas bottles held in by some baler twine.
Yeah, it's not that basic. But no, I mean, basic and functional. But also the same as I've got a Vanville in the van. I've got one for my grinder as well, and silly things like that. So you're not having to lug stuff in and out. So just save your back.
User friendly.
Yeah.
Minimal effort for setup.
Yeah. Favorite rounding hammer?
I've always used Derek Gardner turning hammers. £2.5, which I'm starting to pay for. Lighter. Light is good.
Yeah, I bought myself a 2.25 Stephen Bean when I qualified, and that has been I enjoy it. I've gone to a £2. Actually, I had COVID last year, and sort of going back to work after that, I'd ended up fitting with my gunner because I just didn't really have the strength. And I was like, actually, why am I fitting with a £2.25 hammer? So I bought a £2, and I've always stuck with that since.
Right. Yeah, I've been swaying back and forth. I have a 2.25 and then I keep going back to the 2 for fitting.
Yeah.
But as soon as I start forging,
forging with a 2.25 is, and it's not heavy. I've had a few others that have been 2.25, 2.5, and I think because I'm not the biggest of blokes, sometimes it's quite a difficult boundary to press because although you can be efficient with it, your elbow pays for it.
Right. Yeah. Favorite type of bar stock to work with? Can be concave, flat, aluminium, as you guys say.
No, that's witchcraft.
Yeah, that dies on you too easy.
I can smell aluminium quite easily. Probably concave, 7838, because it goes on most size feet that I see. If not, bit of inch 38 flat or inch by half, plain stamps. I like plain stamps. It's like a concave, but you can hit it harder. Agri-practical. Yeehaw!
Yeah, 7838 I like because you can shoe so much with it and it's very versatile, especially since a few of the manufacturers are now bringing out 8mm concave shoes in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was, probably, certainly when I qualified, 8mm concave shoes are pretty unheard of. There was a few manufacturers, I think, that toyed with it, but I don't think they were particularly successful.
I find that sort of lighter, wider sections sometimes go further than thinner, deeper sections, just because it's a wider or a larger surface area.
I think a lot of it I look at now is getting the frog as close to the floor as possible. Especially, I see some of it sometimes unnecessarily putting on deep, like even my Hunters behind have got anything up to a 3's got 7838 on it. And as long as they're going 4 weeks, I don't see the point of putting heavier sections on because 4 to 5 weeks, what's the point? It's a shoe in more a year when you sort of see that distance. So actually, I'd rather keep the frog close to the floor and keep everything functioning better.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have to fix other problems down the road. Favorite pastime after work? I guess this is where you can say what your ideal weekend is.
I've got a bit of a nerdy hobby. I like steam engines and heritage railways. So
proper Suffolk.
Yeah, I know. There's a few ferries that I know that have steam engines, whether it be trains or traction engines. But yeah, I just like it. It kind of goes back to my fabrication side of it, and it's different from horses. So at the end of the week, I get a bit of a breather between work and play.
Right.
Yeah, mine sort of varies in the year. I mean, over the winter, I've got a full gun on a pheasant shoot syndicate and got a spaniel I take on there. I have hopefully 2 next year when the puppy's old enough. So that's kind of my winter thing. I've started kickboxing earlier in the year and I'm really starting to get into that and enjoy that as well.
Cool.
Which I think actually, like especially the kickboxing and fitness, is helping the job massively because getting your body strength up in better places, And also the mindset as well, that actually you have to learn to keep yourself cool, compose yourself. And sometimes in situations with horses when you really want to boil over the top, you can just actually go and just walk away from it.
Yeah.
And you don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. Yeah, I found I was getting really sore and it started to really feel like a grind. But as soon as I started doing some kind of activity afterwards, like mountain biking was mine, even though I was wiping out on the bike and, injuring myself that way, I feel better during the day under the horses.
It's just using your body in a different way. Come into stuff like this, I'm laying standing up, walking around all day. I'd much rather be bent over shoeing a horse.
Yeah, I think we can all know the fact that we go on holiday for a week, have a week off work, and you're probably more sore after a week off work than you would be a week shoeing. Once you've shod for a few days, you get back into the rhythm of it.
And you're fine, yeah. Well, fine, you just go back to your normal level.
Pain management system.
The aches you've got used to dealing with.
Yeah. Favorite brand of keg shoe?
What's a keg?
Machine made.
Asphalt cider.
Okay.
That's what a keg
That's your
is.
favourite keg.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't use that term over here?
Machine made, generally, yeah.
Factory made.
There, we're back up again. There we go.
Floppy.
Yeah, I use a lot of mustard now.
Yeah, Libero concaves.
Sometimes I had a bit of a falling out with sort of drop forged shoes rather than sort of concave flat bar that's been turned into shoes. I feel like because they come out the box the same. They're all very similar from small size to big size. The Libero Slims are 8 mils or 10 mils for the ones that wear slightly heavier. The nail fit's always good and consistent, and they just tend to suit most horses. You can get them all the time. You don't tend to have many stock issues, which is quite helpful. Certainly with I think a lot of stuff in the industry at the minute, we are seeing a massive issue with stock coming through in places.
Yep. You struggle with the drop forged ones with consistency?
No, I've always found them very consistent.
The issue is the supply chain. There's a certain supplier. Every order this year, they've been missing something. So just, why would I use that product? I'll just get mustard. It's always available. My local supplier always has it in stock. Steve at Farrier's Choice, shout out to you.
Good old Steve.
Discount. He's just been sick in his mouth listening to that. Discount.
He's sick in his mouth when everybody's buying stuff at Focus and not from him for the week. We'll see him tomorrow. We'll remind him.
Make sure he knows he got a shout out, so we have to keep that bit in.
There we go. Okay. Next thing on your bucket list, 10 kids.
No,
He's not got it in him for
Start
that.
slowly. Got to practice first.
You'll get there one day, Jamie.
Probably travel a bit more. See a bit more of the world. There's plenty to see.
I've never really lived on life as a bucket list. I've been very much
Lurching from one disaster to the next.
pretty much, yeah. And just, I've I've never been a massive one for making plans in the long term and actually just taking what comes in front of me. Hopefully something will come up, but I wouldn't say I'm not aspirational because there's stuff I would like to do, but I'm not particularly specific with it. I find that actually sometimes my hobbies and interests change quite drastically, so I might end up finding something else I really want to do.
Right. You're open to suggestions.
That could have been misconstrued.
I know.
Yeah.
I saw the look on your face and had
The
to add
panic
to it.
in my eyes. Open to what?
Open to suggestions.
Being led astray.
I'm not going to make one of these dodgy TV programs you see at 9 o'clock about the moving world onto the internet.
What, BBC 4?
No, that's on about old people.
Favorite anvil?
Competitor. JHM.
Yeah, I must admit, I've got a little Swanee travel anvil in the van, and I've made everything on the back of that pretty much. And it does what I need. The anvil I use the most. I mean, I do like a big shop anvil, but I've got a little 51 kilo anvil I bought.
My choice was shop anvil, like Sam Swanee, because it's all I've ever used.
Yeah, it does everything you
It's
need it to do.
functional. The bick's where it should be. The clipping faces are where they're meant to be. Turning cams on the end. Bish bash bosh. Quite literally.
Bish bash bosh. Okay. Ideal number of horses to shoot all around in one day?
4 or 5.
Yeah. Not too many. Done by lunchtime.
4 or 5 on a nice day. 4 or 5 in a nice place where they bring you a cup of tea every horse you do. There's concrete. You can have a nice conversation.
Radio's on in the background, good horses.
And then you have that dream day where they all refit.
Ah.
Or you get to the end of the stud hole season, like, oh, we don't need stud holes this time. You have a little party in your head.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which it's finally happened over
Yeah.
here. Finally, I've stopped putting studs in stuff.
Put a set on with single stud holes this week. Don't think it needed it, but she said she was going, so I thought,
Might as well.
oh, did you put stud holes in? No, because you didn't mention it before I started. Oh, can you put some in? Yes, if you pay me again. Or if you actually pay me on time.
I feel like the whole interview has been very therapeutic for Jeremy.
I've vented. How much of you can use is a different question.
This is one time a year he gets it off his chest.
It's nice.
Favorite inspirational quote?
Life's tough, wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Charge them till you like them.
Don't worry about today's fuck up, because you'll fuck up again tomorrow.
That sounds like Danny might have said that to you.
Wait. No, that's usually about when he was in the army and does this rash look normal.
Do you have a farrier terrier? Dog that you bring along with you?
A Cocker Spaniel.
No, I've got 3 cocker and 2 springers that come to work with me most days. Stan was wandering around yesterday. He's just over a year old. He's having a great time. Pretty much every day they're at work with me. And when I had one, I let him out quite a lot. Now I'm a bit more selective about where I let him out, because the bigger springer, he's a bit scared of horses, and he's a proper gun dog. He's like, if there's no work to be done, I'm going to sit in the van and wait till there's some work to be done. Whereas the other pair, if there's an open stable, to be tearing around it and savaging each other with it, they make a mess. And the noise they make out of them, Jesus Christ, you'd think they'd be killing each other at times.
Like shooting on a pig farm. Like something out of Jurassic Park. Yeah, basically. It's true. Pig farms make me uneasy.
Really?
Have you ever watched Snatch?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Never trust a man with
pigs. Feed them to the
Got
pigs,
to take
Errol.
the teeth out. They don't digest.
Hence the expression, as greedy as a pig.
We had a mass murderer in Canada, and that's where they found all the DNA was in this
Pig farm.
I
look forward to that on Netflix.
So one of my customers has just got 2 little pigs. I need to be worried about them.
There you go. Don't trip and fall in front of them either. If you're stumped on a case or need backup, who do you call?
Oh, it depends on the case. If I need basic high-level farrier, Robert Shave. If I want complicated answers and blows my brain, Stephen Hill. It's true.
Yeah, it's very true.
Robert is very good at putting across information in very simple terms, or explaining it in such a manner an idiot like myself can understand quite quickly. Whereas Stephen, bless him, last man to win the heavy horseshoeing at Peterborough.
In what was that, 2010?
Oh, I don't know. When did they shut that down?
Was it 2012? It was because that was my first competition was the Shire Show when I was on my first block at college.
We've gone off topic. Yeah, so Stephen, if it's more in depth.
I did a lot of work for Stephen Hill when I first qualified, and I learn't so much off that man. It was great. Like, me and Stephen Britton talk pretty much every day, and we're always talking about horses we've shod together. But there'd be a little group of people that Stephen Britton, I haven't spoken to Stephen Hill for a while, to be fair, but thankfully I've not really had anything recently that I've really been banging my head against.
That's
but
always
I think
nice.
Been ticking along more than anything. Summit will mug me off on Monday now.
I've just summoned a priest who's going to bless this room.
The universe is listening.
Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, please don't do this to me.
Spectacles, testicles, wallet and watch.
Do you have a favorite shoe or package for a mystery lameness when the client doesn't want to pay for a diagnosis or the vet's stumped?
Not a 3D pad. And side clips.
Sometimes just basics. Start basics. Normal shoeing package, toe clip, side clip, whatever suits that foot. Go from there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is stripping it down to basics. And I've had horses come to me in the past that have got everything in the kitchen sink thrown at them. And actually I've been like, you know what, let's just shoe it normally. You know, trim it well, pay attention to foot balance, don't overdress the feet, fit it nicely. And, you know, look at the other environments as well of management. If, you know, sometimes it can be silly things just as management that can help these horses rather than going in there with your size 10s and throwing everything at it, charging them a fortune. And sometimes you end up no further forward because I think it's often easily forgotten that there's so many external factors in horses that actually sometimes what we do makes very limited difference.
Sometimes it's how they're kept. Like one I've had recently, it kicks the stable door. It's lame from it. I can't fix where you keep your horse. If you're going to keep it on a marsh, it's not going to have the best feature in the winter because it's just in wet all the time.
My ideal answer at the minute would be if, unfortunately, horses, there isn't a recovery time anymore and you can't give a horse time off anymore because it has to be doing something all year round, taking the shoes off, trimming them up and turning it away for 3 months. Because I bet 80% of problems would be solved in that 3-month period, and it costs you a trim and some turnout, and that is it. Maybe a trim in the middle of that process as well.
Keep on top of the feet. It's just like, don't let them get long, don't let them chip. We'll just maintain it.
I think we're in a world where there's such an influx of products that actually sometimes it's just keeping it simple.
The other issue is the way I explain it, it's the Amazon mentality. I've ordered it today, it will be here tomorrow. So it's the same with recovering their horse. I've took it to the vet. I've had this really expensive treatment. I want results. Whereas it's not that straightforward. They're not motorbikes. If you want something like that, go to Honda, go to Yamaha, blat about on that. Horses need time. Like we do. If we're getting over something, we just rest, see how it goes. We'll look at it again in a couple of months.
Favorite method of soothing aches and pains? Yourself? 3 months of rest?
What's the word for it?
Cannabis.
Addiction.
No.
Can't do things like that over here.
Comfort eating. My girlfriend bakes. I'm on the cusp of laminitis. I am, because I don't shoemakers more, my physique's gone.
I have a man called Sean, who's a Emmett sports therapist, and he puts me in a lot of pain. I go and see him once a month now. He puts me in a lot of pain, but since I've been doing that monthly, it's something I said I'd do since I qualified, and I didn't really pick it up until COVID. That actually it sorts out so many more problems, just keeps me going.
Mm-hmm.
A lot better than drinking every night and that sort of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a beer, but at the same time, especially for longevity, actually, I think there's probably a lot of older guys that would come back to the start of their career and probably do things differently.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I have had alcohol, of course, listed often, but sometimes, you think, maybe that wasn't the best route you could have taken. But speaking of, favorite drink?
I haven't tried it yet, but I want to try gin and Dubonnet. That sounds nice. So a nice gin and Dubonnet's it's a French fortified wine. It sounds quite sophisticated in my mind. Other than that, pint of Aspel's, which is cider.
I don't know if I've got a favourite. I think it depends on the situation. Like on a shoot day, slow gin, something like that is, especially on a nice chilly day, warms the cockles lovely.
Going back to something we said earlier, Norfolk Showground, Norfolk shoemaking and shoeing, Norfolk cider varies from 14 to 40%.
Holy jeez.
Every year, a different farrier ends up in bed before 7:30, naked in the back of the van. It ruins men.
Favorite genre of music or favorite song?
My favourite song in the minute is Blink-182, I Miss You. Don't know why, it's just one of them songs that every time it comes on the radio, gets turned up.
It depends what mood I'm in. Through TikTok, I got into Rammstein, heavy
really?
German rock.
Industrial rock.
But then I quite like marching music, like Household Cavalry.
Really?
Bit of proper brand
Yeah,
stuff.
like brass bands.
Household Grenadiers.
It's quite therapeutic when you're forging because you go with the drums.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. I might have to go and put the road to the British Grenadiers.
Fair enough.
If that's how it goes.
So what kind of shoes are you making when you're listening to Du hast, Mike?
Double dobbers.
No, not double. Nice bit of concave.
Not a bit concave. Inch by half so it doesn't bruise as bad.
Trying to get bar shoes to weld.
He's going to make that straight bar that's on the specimen table outside.
No kidding. Yeah.
4 heats. Bish bash bosh.
What would you have been if not a farrier?
Lottery winner.
Oh, yeah. Guaranteed, huh?
Who knows?
No, it would have been something in the technical theatre or probably follow my dad into films. And to be fair, there's some days where I think it was probably the better option because I swear he earns a lot more money than I do. And he's always finished at 5 o'clock.
A lot less stress.
Oh, yeah. And it sounds like they get regular breaks at the local cafe and everything.
They
So
get to
lives
go
the
on
dream.
strike for 6 months, don't they?
Yeah, he didn't get paid for that, though.
Well, at least he got the time off.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a chance for you to catch up financially.
Yes.
The COVID question, who would you want to be stuck in a shop with?
All mastered.
You're not meant to tell people about that.
Stuck in a shop. Pass.
I think me, you, Britain, as long as we can segregate him in a room when he gets annoying.
Cable ties and duct tape.
Yeah, as long as we can remove him every now and again. I think we'd have quite a laugh. Get Scott there as well.
Oh, our token American from Suffolk.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he's like the Richard Hammond of the group.
He
Top
likes
Gear.
America. He wishes he could live in America.
Yeah, he's like the resident Yank, non-Yank.
He'd have a F-250 or a Ram if he could.
Yeah, we were discussing a Ram a little while ago, but it's just not particularly cost-effective.
Especially when you
over
have
here.
to fix them in the shop like weekly.
We ain't got no Dodge dealers over here. We've got dodgy
Yeah.
dealers.
It's hard enough to get parts for a Dodge back home. So, well, thanks, guys.
No, thank you.
Thanks,
It's
Brian.
been a lovely little morning.
Before I let you go, I wanted to say a few words about Heartland Horseshoeing School. I had the privilege of hosting Chris and Kelly Gregory a couple weekends back when they were up here doing a clinic. And it never ceases to amaze me at how good of an educator Chris is. His lectures and demos had something for everybody, from the beginning farrier to the most seasoned in the crowd. And as I watched Chris do his thing, I had that same thought that I have every time I leave the Heartland after a week of being there, and that was that I wish I had got my start in one of their full courses. I think of how much better set up I would have been and how many mistakes I wouldn't be still unlearning to this day. So if you're just starting out and want to get into this career, I highly recommend that you invest in yourself and take their course. The last I spoke to Chris, there were 1 or 2 spots still available for their second semester in the 12-week course. Yes, there are cheaper and shorter courses out there, but just like horseshoeing, you get what you pay for. Look them up at heartlandhorseshoeing.com. Well, that's it for now. Take care of yourselves and each other out there. We'll talk soon.